Hey guys, here is the hand demo that I had promised. I'm just going to kind of go for it on this one. I have not really practiced or anything, but I've done a couple hands before, a couple different ways. A lot of times I'll do them in ZBrush now, but I think having a knowledge of kind of doing the base in Maya can be really helpful. Laying the groundwork is definitely very important. So this is the base mesh that you should have more or less after the videos that I did, and as well as the videos that Eric did that I sent you guys links to. The hand should be more or less like this, so you can see that I haven't really touched the hand at all since those videos. Hopefully this won't take too long, maybe half an hour to an hour or so. We will see. So you can see I have a face selection going here already. I'm just going to extract this from the model. Let me see if detach works. Does that work? Nah. Oh yeah, it does. Okay. So for now, what did that do? Oh, that's weird. Oh, okay. Actually, I haven't used attach. I usually use extract. I'm kind of curious. Okay, so let's do a mesh separation and hide the body. Let's hide this eye. Actually, I'm just going to delete all this. This is a separate file, so I'm not too worried about it. And I'm going to pull up some reference too, though I might not use it too much. So I'm just in the other monitor right now. I'll be right back on this side in a minute. Hands are definitely tricky. Maybe I should have gone over them sooner. They're not a focal point necessarily, but they are pretty important. And, you know, it's tough because you don't want to put all of your energy into the hands, because I think the face generally is a much bigger draw. But at the same time, you kind of end up having to put a decent amount of time into the hands just because they're kind of complicated. Alright, 1 second. Just have to find this reference. I think it is in, let's see, my anatomy. Do I have it here? Hands. Go with male for now. Alright. I'm just going to go with some sculpted reference. I think this is actually... These aren't perfect. Generally, you kind of want to work with reference that's actually photographic. Currently, I don't have great photographic reference in here, so I'm just going to stick with this. You know, we're not really going for super detailed hands here, so, I mean, looking at something like this is really going to give us all that we need. I'm just going to look for another minute just to see if I can find something better. So, let's see. Actually, yeah, I think I like this better. Just snap that over. Oh, come on. 1 second. Okay. So let's actually just get rid of a bunch of this. So I'm going to do my best to do this without adding any vertical edge loops up here. I know we have this pinch right here. That's not ideal. We could probably run it all the way up the arm, but then that adds it into the head. We'd have to kind of circle that off somewhere. So for now, I'm just going to kind of leave it. You will notice, I think my hand, I did it a little bit differently. I didn't really like the way that it was done in the video where we sort of pulled it off of the side here. Because if you see, like when the hand's wide open, it really does just follow kind of this open thing. Like there is going to be a bit of a bulge right here. That should come forward. I mean, the nice thing with hands is you have one in front of you all the time, so you can look at that for reference. But it can help to kind of have some photographic up at the time too, just because, you know, your hands are on the computer. You might not be able to always reference that. So let's just get rid of this. I'm going to orient this. Let's see, center pivot on that, move that up a little bit. Just kind of eyeballing it. Want everything lined up well. It's going to make it a little bit easier to work on. You could also just do the separation and then, you know, reattach it. I think we actually did that earlier in the video, so... You know, never be afraid to kind of go back and forth. Sometimes you just have to do that. So the key to this is we want to add edge loops down here, but try to find ways to sort of end them before getting up to the wrist. This can be tricky. I'm probably going to have to take a couple tries at it here. But we'll see how it goes. And just look at your own hands too. Keep an eye out, you know, like look at everyone's hands are a little bit different, but for the most part, you know, your forefinger is, this is more or less what you're going to have. Where the forefinger is a little bit shorter than the middle, a little bit shorter than the ring, and a good bit shorter than the middle finger. The pinky is significantly shorter than the rest. On mine, my pinky actually only comes up to probably about here. And they're also different thicknesses slightly, so you can come in and do that too. I saw some people's hands are still boxed off a decent amount on the side, so, you know, I'll get rid of this edge loop real quick just to show you how to deal with that. Let's see, I have to stretch this out a little bit more. So if this is what you're working with, just come in and put an edge loop in, and that's going to put it all the way up your arm if you're working that way, but that's okay. First off, you never know how this is going to work, but I'm going to try giving it the edge flow, which will round it out a little bit. Let's just see what we get. And that's actually really good. That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to sort of offset just a little bit and round out everything. So, I'll take a sip of water real quick. Alright, sorry about that. Let's see here. So if you look at your fingers kind of head on, you'll notice that they actually are relatively flat on the top until they get to the knuckle here. Then there's a big arch. So, you know, this is actually the way that it is right now. With these two down here, you could almost, you bring that in a little bit, but that's almost kind of ideal. You know, if we smooth that out, that's going to look a lot like a finger. The nail's a little weird looking right now, so just ignore that. Those nails actually should come down, not up, but what are you going to do? That's how we are. That's how we're starting it. So I'm going to bring this back up a little bit. So let's just start off by drawing an edge loop through here anyway. And I'm going to actually have them snap. Alright, I got to dock this. It's driving me nuts. Snap to 25 in case I want to do that later. Just holding shift. And let's do all 4 of them. So the nice thing is we have this triangle here, and now that's just quads. So because we drew that edge loop, and we can just kind of leave that like that. I'm also going to add an edge loop here and kind of flatten that out a little bit, and that'll give us the ability to come in, you know, and bend the wrist. Well, move it up here. So now that'll give us that. I'll probably add one more actually. And that can be resolved, that stretching that we were seeing, that'll be resolved when we paint our weights and everything. But we can see we have added one more loop at the top on each side of the arm, and we will figure out a way to get rid of that. But for now, just leave it. Let's see, any more that we need right now? I don't think so. Oh, I do actually think, yeah, one more here, because these are going to be bending. And now we can kind of use what we have here and kind of start to define our knuckles a little bit. Just by dragging those at the top, bringing them up, bringing these down a little bit. And if you look at it, the knuckle actually starts before the joint actually happens. So like once you get to the finger, it's already starting to kind of go down a little bit. So I'm just going to select every other one of these. And again, we're not doing like a super detailed hand. I'll show you an example of a detailed hand I've made later. But we don't really need that right now. So just going to bring those out a little bit. These can come out a little bit too, but not quite so dramatically. And okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go to the side view. Just make sure that these are all centered. So of course, in a real finger, there's some webbing here, and that would kind of require another edge loop down the middle, but we're not really going for that detailed right now. You could actually kind of get it from this. Let's see, actually, I'm going to try something out. So you could try doing a bevel here, maybe. Yeah, that's a little too much. Actually, yeah, I don't mind this. So part of me doing it this way is to kind of show you that modeling really is just a process of experimentation. I do this different every single time I do this. I'm sure there are people out there, modelers out there, who are very hard and fast with their rules. You know, I am with certain rules, but a lot of the times you just have to kind of get in there and experiment. So I know I'm leaving an end gun there right now. I'm going to take care of that in a little bit. For now, I'm just connecting these. Let's see. I think I just want to draw across. Connect all these. So we can have a little triangle in here. That's not too big of a deal. It's very small. Not going to be that noticed. So that would be one way to sort of space this out a little bit. To be honest, I don't think I actually like that. I'm going to undo and hope that I have enough undo history to take care of all that. Yep, I do. Okay. So I'm just going to leave it like this right now. You know, when I smooth this out, that's not too bad. And it's a good preview. And the nice thing is, now that we have this back here, that can kind of help define sort of the inner palm, or like the pad of the fingers, just where the finger comes in. Those should all come out a little bit. So let's select this whole loop just by click shift selecting from this one to this one. Bring it up a little bit, kind of gradually. And then I want to bring every other one out just a little bit, sort of define that pad there. And maybe hit 3 just to kind of get an idea. Just barely on these, and then let's just shift select the rest of them. Just get the wireframe to be able to see that. Pull that out. Bring it back down. So let's do one more edge loop across here. I think. Well, hold on. We're kind of looking at a lot of rectangles here right now, and I don't think we really want that. But I'm going to wait a minute before I complicate it any further. Let's see. So this is the middle of the palm. This can come in a little. Do a soft select on that. Just a touch. Bring this out. Actually going to bevel this edge loop, I think. See what I get. Yeah, I think having extras in here is going to be useful. Because you'll see if you look at the wrist, there really is quite a bit of a fall off. Kind of a sharp angle in here. So pull this in a little bit. Taper that. Let's look. So this is actually, let's do 2 views here. Perspective here. Both of these out and this out just a little bit. What is this? Ah, yes. Okay. Definitely going to need to add another edge loop around here. Side view. The thumb really needs to have a lot of mobility. The thumb really moves a lot. I'm actually going to rotate it out just a little bit, just by moving my pivot up here. Move that out just a touch. I don't know. I don't really like this pinch up here right now. I'm gonna leave it alone right now, though. I think it's okay. It's not ideal, but that is kind of how the video said to do it. We're gonna stick with that, I think, for now. This is one method, basically. So let's see. This kind of can come out a little bit on the side. All of these changes are very minor. You see, I'm not moving things very far. But a lot of the times in modeling, that's all it takes is these little minor changes where, you know, everything looks kind of weird, then all of a sudden you move a few things, just a couple pixels, and all of a sudden it just kind of comes together. And particularly with bodies, that's really common. So I like to try the bevel now. There's a new bevel tool in Maya. There's a new algorithm for how it calculates bevels. And it does a good job of inserting edge loops when you need a little bit more. And like right now, looking at this part of the hand, I'd like to have a little bit of extra space in there, and I don't have anything for that right now. So let me see what I get. Bevel this. Okay. So pull this out a little bit more. See, now I have a little bit more to work with. Kind of comes in too far right now. But we can adjust that. I think one more edge loop around here is going to be required to really get that shape. And that rounds out the edge of this too, which is nice. Just kind of trying to ease this shape. It is kind of a harsh angle here, but not that harsh. It's a little too harsh right now. Again, I'm trying to go for kind of relaxed pose on the hand. So you can see my poly count's getting kind of up there. I know that I always talk about how you want to keep it down quite a bit. The hand, I won't say the hand is an exception. The hands can get really overwhelming, but you can see that I'm keeping a lot of order to this. Everything is still very grid-like. I haven't really done a whole lot of work yet to to add detail or anything. I mean, stuff like this you can do in texture or ZBrush. You don't really want to bake that in anyway because the hand doesn't really have those kind of ridges unless you really extend it and flex it. We want something more akin to this. So let's see. But you can see already this shape is a whole lot more natural than what we had before. Kind of trying to balance out the spacing a little bit more. And let's come in now and change kind of how we have our nails. So you'll notice if you look at your hands, the skin actually comes up and then goes down into the nail. So you have like a little bit of skin flap here and that ridge around the nail. So you want to have that bridge in there. You don't want the nail just sort of protruding up the way that it was. It'll grow out, obviously. You can always come in if you wanted longer nails. Grab these two edge loops and extrude those out. Just a touch. Now you have a much more realistic looking nail. I think I'm actually going to stick with that. I kind of like that. Space these out just a little bit more. And let's scale this in. And I'm going to keep this edge sort of uniform, so I'm actually going to bring that down. Try to keep this shape, basically follow this contour all the way around, the same distance. And I think too, to round these out, we want to put an edge loop around there. Just look at your hands, see what they look like, see what they're doing, see what shape they form. So I think actually what I want to do is bring this part up a little bit, and then kind of come down. So let's see, smooth that out, and the thumb's starting to look a lot better. Only thing we have left to do now, let's go through and do all the nails first. So I'm just going to go to the side view for this. Select faces. Move this over a tad because it's not centered very well. Bring it up. Let's look at the curve of the nail. Actually, it does curve around quite a bit at the base on my fingers. Bring you down here. And it actually kind of comes out a little bit as it gets near the end of the finger. So let's go through. I'm just going to put an edge loop through all these. I'm going to lower the influence of the smoothing down to maybe 90. Just put this right at 50 so it just snaps right where I want it. And that's more than I thought. Let's see. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, way too small right now, but we'll dial that in. Again, this is sort of the base of the nail, and then I'm just going to scale this up considerably. Let's just do that on all of these. So I'm going to do all these at the same time. Well, not at the same time, but before I move on to anything else. And I'm just trying to make all of this uniform now. Every finger is slightly different from the other, but it's usually just like kind of a little bit of a scale difference. It's not like massive structural differences. So just kind of mirroring what I've done. And because I've laid my fingers out slightly different already, I don't know if the, you know, they kind of are naturally taking a slightly different shape. This nail needs to be moved over just a tad. And let's just straighten that out. So let's see. Bring that up just a little bit. I think these need to come in just a touch. I want it to round out a little bit, but not quite as much as it is. They're kind of coming out too far right now. And this is just my opinion. This is, you know, what I'm going for is slightly more natural look. But again, every finger can, you know, has the potential to be vastly different. So your fingers may be very different from what I'm doing. Just round out the base here. You always just kind of want to have more of a steady flow. You don't want one shape just completely going into another that without any sense or rhyme or reason to it. Let's bring this up a little. So basically the inner 4 here and the loop around it, that's what I'm considering my nail. I could even UV them separately or model them separately. For this, I'm actually going to keep them as all part of one mesh. It's up to you though. It might be easier and possibly even better looking to make it part of a different mesh and just kind of jam it in there. But for now, so that's a little bit closer. We're getting close. Let's just get this middle finger in. And we should be in good shape. So again, I'm going to select these edges to sort of bring that ridge out. And I'm going to go to my perspective mode. Make sure that these actually come out a little bit. I'm going to actually do the same thing across the middle line. I'm going to end up adding another edge loop in here. For now, I'm just going to pull this forward, because you'll see on your fingers a lot of the times that part of the finger in particular comes forward a little bit. And I'm actually going to do that with the whole edge loop and build a little bit of a bend into these. Let's see what I've got from the front. Okay, right side. So I'm actually literally going to bend them now. Front again, just a slight rotation. And this can make it a lot easier too to sort of identify the joints. So I'm gonna move these up with soft select because we need 3 of these divisions, and I'm gonna make this my first knuckle. I think I'm gonna add a second edge loop in here as my other second knuckle. Let's see. Scale that down a little. Yeah, I think that's how I want to do it. So to make it easier to remember, I'm just going to go ahead and bevel this now. We're just going to give me a second set of edge loops. This is not final topology necessarily, but now I'm going to remember that's where my knuckle is supposed to be. And this angle is currently too harsh. So I'm gonna bring it forward just a touch. I think I want to bring all this in a little bit too. Yeah, definitely do. And as well as all of these. Yeah, that's So you can see this is already starting to come along. Again, I'm going to pose a few little things on the finger. The fingers just sort of gives me some separation. It's going to make it just a little bit easier, you know, to identify all these things when I'm rigging. Just go to my front view, go with this rotation again. Just kind of try to get that in place. Then pull these out. Let's do this. I think I want this to come in a little bit too, but I don't want to select that part. So, okay, back to our fingernails. So, now that this is all more or less in place, I can see from the side view, the way the camera's set up, it's kind of hard to see. I'm just going to come in. So it's the exterior of this first edge loop is the extent of my nail. So I'm just selecting both of these two. I'm actually going to scale them out a little bit. Oh no, I can't do it that way. So I'm going to do one at a time and scale them out. Because fingernails actually continue to grow outward for the most part. At least mine do. They don't really curve back in. So now that those are out, I'm going to shift select all of them. Just those last two. And do a quick extrusion. Not much, just a little bit to sort of define the nail. This is someone who has, you know, not cut their nails for a week or something. You can see we got some weirdness going on in here. I think that's just because there's some intersection going on. So I'm going to now just address these one at a time. Turning off the smooth to kind of get a better idea. So sometimes you get this where all the verts or everything's looking, you're kind of almost seeing this X-ray. That has to do with the clipping plane of your camera. So I'm just going to go to select my camera. If you click view, select camera, it'll select the current camera. Make my far clip plane one smaller, I think. Yeah. So sometimes that, if your far clip plane is set up really high, you'll actually like see through it. So like if I add 2 zeros to this, you'll see it's a serious mess. So take those out. It's a little easier to see now. So let's just kind of round this out a little bit and scale the outside in, inside out, etc. Again, this is kind of getting into sort of nitpick territory. But, you know, if you've got the time, this is the sort of thing that can set a model apart. Attention to detail is never a bad thing. I think I might want to round this out just a little bit more, actually. Or not round it out, like spread it out. Just a little. Too tapered off right now. For my taste. I don't know. That was kind of goofy looking, though. I think that's okay. So now you can see we've got fingernails that are a little bit more natural looking. You could actually come in and do one more edge loop, I think, around here that's really tight. And then just bring it in on these. Sort of create some separation. All depends on what you want. You can see that sort of gives us, turn this wireframe off, gives us a little bit more definition around here. Really push it even more. Push it out a little bit more. It's really up to you, however you want to do it. I'm going to leave that alone for now. I think these are fine. Let's do that actually to all of them. So I'm just going to go through, make sure I add that edge loop to them all. Oh, done on the outside by accident. Just do it without smooth turned on. And zoom in a little bit, so it's a little easier. Again, just selecting these 4 edges around the base. I already did it to this finger, so I'm going to leave that one alone. My pinky is really stretched right now, so I gotta fix that. We'll bring that in, and let's look at the right side, and let's see. Bring that way up. That looks kind of ridiculous, so. Okay, so that's looking good. So next, let's see, I'm gonna soften my normals real quick, just set it to 55, see what I get. That's still kind of hard, so let's see. I am going to just go to mesh display soften, just because I want to see what it's looking like. Alright, so I'm not liking this part too much. This actually, I want to scale in, because that's much more natural. Not even scale in. But then on the bottom, you'll see it's actually pretty flat. It kind of tapers down to a point right here. So I'm going to leave that alone now. Let's see with the smooth if this is off a little bit. I want to pull that out. And I'm constantly going back and forth. You know, it's not, working in smooth is not inherently a bad thing, but working solely in smooth with smooth preview on can give you a very false impression of what your model is really doing. Add one more edge loop here. So it's just, you know, I end up going back and forth kind of a lot. Alright, there shouldn't really be a ridge here. So that's why I wanted to add this edge loop here to sort of end that ridge right at the palm, or right at the ball, pad of those fingers. Just kind of scale that back. Bring it down maybe a little bit with some soft select on. The soft select's a little too big. Let's see. Let me bring this up a little. And that's pretty close. I want to add the edge loop around here. I forgot the thumb. So let's just do that. Bring that in. And that's pretty good. Let's see. I think this whole edge can kind of come in a little bit. Try to round it out just a touch. And that come down a little. Just a little bit. But yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape right now. I could maybe put one more edge loop in to tighten all these up to give this a bit more space to rotate. You know, your hands are just going to end up being one of the more dense parts of your model. That's all there is to it. That's okay. Let's see. Thumb. Look at the thumb. Do our bevel around here. So that can bend. This actually needs to come up just a little bit and in. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. This actually has to come in a little bit. That's too blocky right now. Thumbs can be pretty crazy looking too. People have very funky thumbs. Some people do. Let me just check. I'm going to kind of look and count. So in general, on all my fingers, I have like one around, one this way. And so let's see, 1, 2, really only have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 around. So here I'm actually missing one, so I'm actually going to draw this edge loop, and that should just add it one more up on the palm here, or kind of on the heel of the thumb. And man, I'm getting actually really good results from my smooth, or from my what's it called? Yeah, smooth the edge flow. I didn't have to do anything. That put it exactly where I wanted it to be. I do want to bring this out a little bit though. And this can come in. I'm just going to rotate this bottom part. Okay. Pull you out a little bit. So we do have a lot clustering in here, but all that we've really added in terms of to the rest of the body is 1, 2, 3, 4 points. We could end those in the shoulder probably, because because we were able to get away with having this here. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Try to bevel this again. Sorry, this is going to be probably unnecessary, but I just want to push this down a little more. I'm going to leave it alone. Actually, I'm just going to move it down myself just a tiny bit. And then bring this here. I can actually use that to sort of define sort of the wrist bones, because they actually protrude just a little bit. And you'll see, I think on the inside it protrudes up a little bit more. Or outside, rather. Okay. Since it's going to rotate in, I'm actually going to kind of tighten this part up. We'll sort of create like a accordion kind of thing. Sort of create my my pose a little bit. Soft on, bring that out just a tiny bit more. Oop. One extra vertex. Bring you in just a tiny bit more. You kind of come in. Let's see. I'm just kind of, you know, going around the model one vertex at a time, you know, and just kind of making sure everything's more or less in the place that I want it to be. Actually, I think this can all come down more. And this should, let's see. Could all come forward a little bit, actually. It's kind of a weird position there. Not much, just a little bit. And then kind of round this out. Pull that back. I do want to pull this up a little. I think I got one behind, so let's pull that up. This back down. This should be pretty much rounded out here. This should actually be a little bit more flat on the front than it is in the back. So let's see, one more thing. This actually is kind of a sharp edge on this side here too, so I want to make sure that I capture that. And same thing on this side. It's actually rounded out, I think, a little bit too much. So I want to define that edge just a little bit more. Okay. So, I think this is getting pretty close here. I think my thumb's actually really big right now. Definitely is. Just move my pivot and scale that down just a little bit. You pull it in. Yeah, it's better. Okay, one last edge loop here along the finger for our second bone, second joint. And going to do a bevel on that to add ourselves an extra edge loop, so we remember that is where this is going to bend. And I'm going to soften all my normals. And let's see, a few more little tweaks here. Bring this in. Bring all this out a little bit more. This is kind of a weird bend, so I'm just going to kind of pull just these out, I think. Just those two, actually. The rest is fine. And let me just try this. Yeah, I like that. So if I was going for super low poly, I might not quite do this much with the hand. I could probably reduce some of the stuff here and around here, but I think this is still not that bad. I mean, yeah, it is 1,400 triangles. It's definitely more than we need. But we're not really focusing on super streamlining right now. You know, we're looking more at just getting the shapes that we need. You know, we're learning the basics of modeling. Modeling a character. Scale these out a little bit too, actually. It's good practice to try to minimize your poly count as much as you can. But when you're learning, it all depends on, you know, what your goals are for the model. I think for this model, our main goal is clean topology that is deformable, decently deformable, which we have. I mean, this is definitely deformable. It's a few extra edge loops that we don't need, possibly. But for now, you know, I could come in and, I mean, let's see, I could probably lose this one. In fact, I may just decide to do that. Yeah, I'm just going to do that. I could probably find a way to merge this one, but I think it's good. Well, actually, let's lose these for now, too. It's kind of unnecessary. Yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine. And lastly, just to set everything apart again on the right side, I'm going to actually individually do this. Just bend these a little bit. Just makes it a little bit easier to make sense of what you're looking at. And I'm just going to go to full screen here. And if you don't shift the pivot point, you'll just have to push it back a little bit after you rotate it. So fingers also generally are not in such a straight line, but for rigging purposes, it's a whole lot easier if they're in straight lines, so we're just going to leave it like that for now. There's no need to overcomplicate this. They're already going to probably be a little bit offset just by the way that your arm is posed. Now let's just get the second knuckle in there. Rotate it just a touch. Again, I'm choosing to do this because I think it sets the fingers off apart better, and it's part of the whole concept of, okay, these actually need to come down a little bit. The concept of the relaxed bind pose that I'm trying to stick to. You know, try to put your character, you know, before binding your character, try to put it in a relaxed pose that you want it to sort of be its default stance when it's not moving. Just kind of gives your character a little bit more character, for lack of a better word, and kind of make your deformations work a little bit better. So let's see. These can actually come down a little bit in, because that joint is usually pretty close to the fingertip. It's actually looking nice, kind of pulling it forward a little bit. Pull this back. But yeah, I think that's pretty good. Thumb could maybe rotate a little bit, but I think I'm going to leave it like this for posing, or for rigging. It'll make it much easier from the right side to just put our bone in here. Thumbs can be pretty tricky. So let's just try to make it a little bit easier on ourselves by doing that. I might do a slight rotation before doing the rig. I'm going to have to test a few things and see what ends up working best from the box model. But yeah, I think that's about it. I hope this helps. I think tomorrow I might end up making a video on just kind of setting the eyes up and doing eyelids in case you decide you want to do eyelids. I think a lot of the characters right now that people are doing, the faces are looking really nice, but there's a bit of a gap between the eyes and the eyelids. And I'll also show how to set up a good eye. I think we're going to do a more basic eye that just will require just a texture instead of doing the whole cornea lens and all that fancy stuff. I don't think that's really necessary for this project. Sorry, just saw this and I don't like, yeah, I want to move that. Okay, just a little bit. But yeah, so I hope this helps. I hope everyone's models are coming along nicely. I'm really excited to see what everyone has by Sunday. I know that, again, this is a really challenging thing to do, but, you know, once you've gotten through this, I think every model you do after this is just going to start feeling easier and easier, especially if you go back and do some hard surface modeling or, you know, modeling a sword or a spaceship or anything. It's going to feel so much easier after doing something like this. You know, so just stick with it, power through. It's definitely going to be worth your while. And, yeah. Good luck, and I will, like I said, I think I'll have another video up tomorrow talking about the eyes. But yeah, I will talk to you guys soon. Good night.